Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled The Torah of Mosheh, the Torah of YHSWH Messiah, Part 3. Understanding the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. The podcast objectives are restate the primary limitation of the Torah of Mosheh, analyze the purpose of the letter of the law, reveal how the transgression of the letter leads to a curse, and analyze the single thread that connects the order of the Torah. Welcome. Now, before we begin today's lesson, I would like to welcome all my beloved brothers and sisters in YHSWH Messiah who have been scattered to the four corners of the earth, who Yahuwah has joined to this ministry for such a time as this. I would also like to welcome anyone who is engaging our podcasts or videos for the first time. We trust you were led by the set apart spirit in finding us. And if you continue to be led, we hope you stay with us. For these are troubling times, and an evil day is just ahead. To this end, if you are watching this video on YouTube and you have not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button below, and you will be alerted whenever we post new videos. Also, if you have any questions at the conclusion of this video, you can ask them using the link in the podcast description below the video player. Last but not least, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube can share it with believers like us. No mechanism for perfection. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome back to our Word from a Watchman series. In our most recent lesson in this series, we analyze the purpose of the Torah, focusing primarily on the purpose of the Torah of Elohim and the Torah of Mosheh. Now, per the image to the right, the Torah of Elohim is at the top of the order of the Torah, and the Torah of Mosheh is at the foundation. This brings us to an early treasure box on this matter. Get this. The primary limitation of the Torah of Mosheh is that it has no mechanism for achieving perfection in the Ruach of Elohim. To wit, the persistent, strict observance of every command within the Torah of Mosheh does not translate into perfection in the Ruach of Elohim. At best, it would only make one perfect, i.e., blameless in their observance of the letter of the law. Here lies the problem. Vis-a-vis, the letter of the law is only one half of the Torah of Mosheh. The greater half is the spirit of the law. And as both are critical to our analysis, I will provide definitions to establish a baseline for our understanding. Now, by definition, the letter of the law is the literal interpretation of the law, an acknowledgement of debt, an account, a bill, or a note. By definition, the spirit of the law is the true intention of the law, the purpose behind the enactment of the law, the force driving the law, which gives life to all who follow it. Now, as I said last Friday, the next major stop in this series is the analysis of the Torah of YHSWH Messiah and how it bridges the gap between the Torah of Elohim and the Torah of Mosheh. And we will get to that analysis. But first, we must address the variance between the spirit of the law and the letter of the law so we can A, better appreciate the limitations of the Torah of Moshe, and B, lay a foundation for understanding the purpose of the Torah of YHSWH Messiah. Let's get started. The foundation of the law. Now, first things first, I want to remind you that this series is established upon a mini series I taught at the beginning of 2024. Enter End Times 254, 255, and 256. The Law of Moses, the Torah of Perfection, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Here again, these podcasts were posted on January 15th, 22nd, and 29th, 2024. As I say, you must find the time to listen to these podcasts, for this series builds off the foundation that was laid in that series. Not only this, but the Ruach gave us many uncommon truths to share in those lessons and many scriptures that are at the heart of this controversy. And these will be crucial for you to see through this deception. Now, let's talk about the letter and the spirit of the law, beginning with the letter. Along these lines, the letter is the literal interpretation of the law, and it serves as the foundation of the law. This is crucial as it pertains to the Torah of Elohim and our submission to his divine order. To wit, there are commands that we must guard literally, or there will be consequences, severe consequences, eternal consequences. No doubt, this is why the Torah of Moshe is very prescriptive and detailed. It is for the following reason, which I will offer as a revelation. This is another one I advise you to bookmark and to share as you are led. The Torah of Moshe is the foundation of our understanding of the divine order of Elohim, which allows no transgression. Not only this, but all who transgress the divine order are under the pain of immediate and endless death. Therefore, as our schoolmaster, the Torah of Moshe is a type and shadow of the Torah of Elohim. To wit, it reveals every standard and rule at the detailed level and every penalty for transgression, again, at the detailed level. Now, the purpose of this painstaking process is sure, vis-a-vis, by mastering every standard and rule of the Torah of Moshe, we validate our ability to submit to the divine order of Elohim. In effect, the false Hebrews who boast in the Torah of Moshe, whilst they break it, are not only delusional, my dear friends, they are disqualifying themselves from the kingdom of Elohim. We know this because anyone who struggles to guard the Torah of Moshe will never submit to the divine order of Elohim. Why? It's because they don't have an adequate foundation. My dear friends, hear me carefully as I say, the Torah of Moshe is the foundation. And anyone who fails to abide by the letter of the law of Mosheh is already in violation of the divine order of Elohim. Not only this, but the penalty of said violation is death, which is why the majority within this nation are dying. For as they fail to guard the most basic commands found within the Torah of Moshe, they are yet under the curse of this captivity, and they will die under the curse of this captivity, proving the original premise, to wit, all who transgress the divine order of Elohim are under the pain of death, now and forever. A curse that has consumed the whole earth. Now, these things being what they are, it should be clear that the letter of the law is not punitive for those of us who fear Elohim, and yet it is indeed punitive for the transgressors and Jacob, to wit, the unruly. For look, listen, it has been written, the Torah of Moshe is good if one uses it lawfully, knowing this, that the Torah is not laid down for a righteous being, but for the lawless and unruly, for the wicked and for sinners, for the wrongdoers and profane. Now, in line with this passage, the letter of the law is meant to indict everyone who transgresses the Torah and to place them under a curse. For look, listen, it has been written, for as many as are of works of the law are under the curse. For it has been written, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all that has been written in the book of the law to do them. Now, that said, the question we should chiefly entertain is this. What does Shaul mean when he says, as many as are of works of the law are under the curse? The answer is sure. Vis-a-vis, he is revealing that all who try to find salvation by following the letter of the law are under the curse. For the works of the law correspond to the letter of the law, to wit, the literal execution of the law to the letter, and the literal execution of the law to the letter sans perfection always ends with death. Now, the reason why is sure. It is because no one can adhere to the letter of the law without the power of the set apart spirit of Elohim. And yet, even with his set apart spirit, it will take time for us to fully adhere to the letter of the law. No doubt, this is why we have spent the past 18 months conducting a detailed exposition of the 80 degrees of lawlessness. It is because we cannot guard the Torah in the spirit of obedient faith if we are infected with lawlessness. Now, that was the inflection. Here is the problem. Vis-a-vis, those who are elevating the Torah of Moshe above the Torah of Yahushua Messiah are subjecting themselves to the letter of the law. In effect, they are placing themselves under the law. This is why they are cursed. For these false Hebrews are breaking the Torah, every one of them. And it has been written, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all that has been written in the book of the law to do them. This is in line with the definition of the letter of the law. To wit, the letter of the law includes an acknowledgement of debt. That is, the debt associated with breaking the Torah. This debt includes contemporary penalties and and eternal judgment, which is at the heart of this curse. And not just any curse. My dear friends, this is a curse that has consumed the whole earth. Isaiah 24, 5 through 6 is revealing, for the earth has been defiled under its inhabitants because they have transgressed the Torah, changed the law, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, a curse shall consume the earth, and those who dwell in it be punished. Therefore, the inhabitants of the earth shall be burned, and few men shall be left. The single thread that connects the Torah. Now, these verses and many others reveal how the letter of the law invites a curse, specifically to those who break the law. My dear friends, this is how we got here. It is because our forefathers would not guard the Torah of Mosheh, and their disobedience and blasphemy resulted in many curses and many captivities. And now we find ourselves suffering under this final curse during this final captivity. And if we fail to reverse this curse, we will die in this captivity, and the clock is ticking. Now, that said, the question of the hour is quite simply this: how do we reverse the curse of this captivity? The answer is sure. We must be led by the Ruach of Elohim, such that we can become one with the spirit of the law. As I say, this is crucial, for the spirit of the law is the greater half of the Torah of Mosheh. To wit, the spirit of the law adds context to the letter. It gives meaning, it reveals purpose, and it offers life. Now, this is crucial to understand, for it speaks to the natural division of our being. To wit, the spirit of the law is aligned with our spirit division, wherein we have life. For man became a living soul after the Ruach of Elohim breathed life into his body. On the other hand, the letter of the law is aligned with our physical division, wherein we die. For the dust shall return to the dust, and the soul shall return to Elohim who gave it. That is the way of it. And thus we conclude the spirit of the law leads to life, and the letter of the law leads to death. And this, my friends, is the great dilemma of the Torah of Mosheh. Search the scriptures. Deuteronomy 30, 19 through 20 is revealing, I have called the heavens and the earth as witnesses today against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, you shall choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed, to love Yahuwah, your Elohim, to obey his voice, and to cling to him, for he is your life and the length of your days. Now, this is a very powerful passage of scripture because it is one of the final messages Mosheh gave to the former nation prior to his death and their entrance into the promised land. As I say, he made it clear that the Torah offers life, and should you refuse life, the Torah also prescribes death. Now, we know that the life we have in the Torah of Mosheh derives from the spirit of the law. For Mosheh encourages the former nation, saying, you shall choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed, to love Yahuwah, your Elohim, to obey his voice. Now, within this passage lies a key revelation that will connect us to the next level of this spiritual analysis. Get this. Mosheh confirms that the renewed nation of Israel would follow the Tehudah and the Torah of YHSWH Messiah. We know this because Mosheh, by the Ruach of Elohim, references two very specific degrees of the Tehudah for two very specific reasons. First, he references love, which is not only the completion of the Torah, but it is also the pinnacle of the Tehudah of YHSWH Messiah. To wit, YHSWH proved his love for Elohim by guarding all the commands and by being obedient unto death. And this is why Mosheh also makes specific reference to obedience, for obedience is the primary application of faith, and faith is the foundation of the Tehudah, which makes obedience the most pervasive precept of the Torah. Praise Yah. Now, what it all comes down to is this. When Mosheh gave our forefathers the Torah, offering them life and death, the Ruach of Elohim inspired him to prophesy concerning the renewed nation of Israel and the renewed covenant that would save our people forever. Not only this, but by the Ruach of Elohim, he testified to the boundaries of the Torah of YHSWH Messiah, so that we know in these last days that the only Torah that can save us is A, founded upon obedient faith, and B, proven by our love for Elohim. My dear friends, I call you to observe the Tehudah of YHSWH Messiah to the left. You can clearly see that love is at the top of the pinnacle, and obedience is A, the first step you take on the path to perfection, and B, a critical factor in every other. And thus, we conclude from the beginning, all signs were pointing to the order of the Torah, which is why Mosheh uses love and obedience as a holistic reference of the Torah of YHSWH Messiah. Now, as it pertains to the Torah, the spirit of the law is the foundation of the bridge that leads faithful men and women who love Elohim and obey his voice into the Torah of YHSWH Messiah, wherein we would find life and be saved from the curse of this captivity. Ergo, now that we fully understand the nature and the limitation of the letter of the law, we must now direct our spiritual analysis towards the spirit of the law and how it is the single thread that connects the Torah, giving life to all who follow it. Now, here is the final word. When it comes to the law, you will find it is better to be focused on the spirit and not the letter. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, we are already beginning to touch on the heart of this controversy, to wit, the false Hebrews who have mangled the truth concerning the order of the Torah, do not have the set-apart spirit of Elohim. This is why they are forced to focus on the letter of the law and the works by which they are cursed. For if we fail to abide by the spirit of the law, we are none of his, and we will not inherit the earth. Heretofore, I recommend follow the letter of the law, but do so in the spirit of truth. For he who follows the spirit by the letter is he who is bearing good fruit. Selah. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on today's lesson. And if you have any questions, please submit them using the form at pinnacleofholiness.com. And I will respond to you as soon as I can. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, The Torah of Mosheh, the Torah of YHSWH Messiah, Part 3. And the next podcast is entitled The Torah of Mosheh, the Torah of YHSWH Messiah, Part 4. I will post this podcast on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim, continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming